Today's webinar is called Analyzing Your Prices. So we are going to look at 3 different reports that I think are really valuable in FrameReady and probably don't get the attention that they deserve. The first report that I want to take a look at is the work order report. Then we will take a look at the glazing usage report, and then the third report we're looking at is the Moulding Matboard usage report. So I'm going to go back right here into FrameReady. Here we are at the main menu. What I want to look at right away is the reports. The report that we're going to be looking at is this report right here, and that's how you access this report. But before we go to that report, I want to show you something that's really important to the setup of that report. On the work order screen, on the left-hand side, you see the word artwork. And if you never do anything with that, this report is not going to be as useful to you because it's going to give you one line of data saying this is artwork and everything is artwork. If you click on the word artwork, you'll get a drop-down list so that you can see all of the different types of art that you have been framing. And if you want to add anything to the list, I would go down to the word edit. And that gives you the ability to change the items that are on this list, and you can drag the little corner of the box down to make it larger if you need to. And then add things in. It is not sorted alphabetically on its own. You have to decide where to put the items in. And so I have added items in here such as memorabilia. Another one that I want to track is repairs, because I don't want the repairs to be skewing my numbers of how much money is coming in from all of these other items. I've used the hyphen in here to separate these items so that it will create a dividing line. And then for those of you who are doing printing or restoration or scanning, I put those up at the top of the list above the word artwork so that they're prominent for me to be able to select if those are things that I do. Once you've added those things into the list, click the OK button, and now you'll have your drop-down list showing you all the different items. And if you do select that this is a print or a pencil sketch, then you don't need to enter that into the description to say pencil sketch of winter sunshine, because when you print this out onto the work order, you'll see that it actually says pencil winter sunshine, or it would say poster jazz concert, or whatever it is that you have framed. So that extra little piece of information is great rather than just the word artwork, especially since there are different things that you could have a card or a print or a poster all with the same information on it. All right, I'm going to go back now to the main menu. And when we click on the reports in the work order section, this is a report based on work orders that were created. It has nothing to do with the invoices. Otherwise, it would be in the invoice section. So it has nothing to do with the money that was collected. This is a report on the work orders. So when I click on reports, it's going to give me a dialog box that shows where I can enter in the date that I want to select. But the very first message that I need to address is this little window here saying select the date field that you want to use on this report. So we could use the created report, the completed one, or the found set. And I'm going to use the found set, but I'm going to go back now and just explain those 2 dates to you as well. So let's go back to the work order screen. On the work order screen, this is the created date up here. It's automatically generated by FrameReady whenever you create a work order. You do have the ability to change that date. If you click on the small calendar and you needed to backdate something to a different date of when you took it in. And that's great, you can change that date. Same thing with the due date. So if we base it on the created date, it's coming in from this date right here. If we base it on the completed date, that is under the shop tab. And for those of you who have been diligent to identify, when it was completed and who is the person that completed it, then that information is also available to run the report. So you can run it either on the created date or the completed date. And I've decided I want to run my report simply on a group of records from the month of June. And in entering the date, I'm going to enter 6 and then slash, and then the asterisks, meaning any date, date 1, 2, 3, 4, 30, 29, all of those, 2021. 2020. So this means any number. Again, the asterisk is that little wild card. So when I click outside the field, I'm going to click Perform, and it's found every work order that was created during the month of June. And that's what I'm going to base my report on. So this gives me all of them. If I decided that I didn't want the incomplete ones or the completed ones, or I didn't want the estimates, then I would weed those out as well. But today I'm just going to go with everything that was created in June. So now that I have my list of 10 work orders that are on here, I'm going to go back to the main menu. And on the main menu, I'm going to click on the reports. I'm going to select Found Set, okay? And I could have entered that same date in here as well, but I've chosen to do it the other way just to give you some variety and show you how to do that. I'm going to click on Proceed. I've selected that I want to pause on the preview so I can see it, and I also want to show the dialog box in case I want to print it or save it as a PDF. So I'm going to click Proceed, and it's going to go through all those work orders, and it's creating this report. Now I know that it's really hard for me to be able to enlarge this report, so what I did was I made up a PDF of it so that it would be a little bit easier for you to be able to see. So the first page that comes up is a report based on category. And as I said, if you've left the word artwork up here and you've never changed it to anything else, that's all you're going to have is one line, which is basically the total line at the bottom here. But if you have selected different items, it's going to throw them all down on the list for you. And the first thing I want to look at is the total number of pieces. So it's telling me we had 6 canvases come in, but they're on 3 orders. So that means there were 3 orders and each person brought in 2 canvases. So that's the difference between the total pieces and the total orders. So this is how many work orders there are, and this is how many pieces are on those work orders. So we can see that the canvases are the most popular right now, and they had the most coming in for this time period. And again, the total is at the bottom. Moving over here to the total sales column, we can see that canvases are the ones that brought in the most money. And that looks pretty self-explanatory there. Prints were the second highest one for bringing in money into the business. But I'm going to tell you right now, I know that those aren't necessarily the ones. Canvas isn't the one that I necessarily want to focus on the most, even though it looks like it brought in the most money for this time period. I'm going to go to the next column. This is talking about the average unit price. So the average canvas work order was $353.99. However, the average print was a higher amount. So you can see that even though this was the total number that was higher for the work orders, the individual work order, the highest one was in the print section. I also want to take a look at the average dollars discounted, the items that were being discounted, the items that aren't being discounted. And of course, I wouldn't expect repairs to be discounted at all. But then the total dollars that were discounted, taking a look at this column, this is telling you exactly how much money you didn't receive because of a discount that was given. If you look down at the bottom, you can see your total number of dollars discounted, and then you can see your total sales. And you want to watch the percentage between those two to make sure that it isn't going up. So you want to keep your percentage low on the dollars discounted. And a great goal is to make sure that you can decrease that to get it down. Discounts are very addictive. If you give a discount to somebody one time, they're going to expect it again and again, and it becomes a habit. So that's why the word discount doesn't appear on the work order screen in FrameReady. It's hidden underneath the options tab. Total United Inches. So here's the total amount of United Inches. So we've got some larger pieces coming in. Again, depending on what the quantity is, there's your total. And then overall the total United Inches that were framed. But this is the column I wanted to take a look at the most, because when I'm looking at the pricing and I want to know, oh, and I haven't set this up well enough for you, unfortunately, because this is really all in a narrow margin. Usually when I'm looking at somebody's category report on their work orders, I'll notice that we'll have a number up here, maybe that's 78, and then there's another one that's 23, and another one. So when you're looking at your average United Inch, and everyone has a different one, could range anywhere from 28 United Inches up to about 45 United Inches on average. So when you're looking at your average, that's great, but you want to look at the range. And if it is something between, let's say maybe 30 and 50, then that's what I would consider to be your sweet spot. because that's your average of the pieces that are being done, and it's breaking it all down. Again, if you only have the word artwork up here, you're not going to see all these other numbers, the other totals. So you want to take a look at that report and see what's the lowest number on the list, what's the highest number on the list, and what is your average. Okay, because this is really, you know, the zone that you want to look at, but you want to take care of those other sizes as well. Looking over at the right-hand side here, even though the canvases were the ones that brought in the most money for total sales, the canvases over on the right-hand side are not the ones that are bringing in the most money based on the United Inch. And this is a great column, the average United Inch price per order. It's telling me that prints are actually bringing in more money based on the size, not that they're a large piece or a small piece, but per United Inch. And the one that brings in the least amount, as is typical, is the repairs. And that's why you don't want that number skewing the other numbers that are on your list to say, you know, repairs usually are very low. Down here, this is your shop rate, to say your average United Inch price per order, and the goal is to try and increase that and bring that up so that you are earning more money per United Inch for the pieces that you are framing. So that's why you want to take a look at this report. When you click on the continue button, so I'm going to go back out of here. We're back into the script that FrameReady is running now. And when you click on the continue button, it's going to move along to the next report. And this report is based on person. Okay, these are all the sales reps. So I'm going to move that one over a little bit to the right and pull up that report to enlarge it. So we had somebody who said they wanted to give their employees a bonus or something based on who brought in the most money. So when you look at this report, it says, well, Chrissy had 6 pieces that she framed. She had 3 orders. Bill had 3 orders as well, but Chrissy had double orders. Somebody was bringing in more than just one piece and having it framed the same way. So she brought in more money than anybody else did. So that's showing us the $1,500 that she brought in, $1,200, and then $1,000, and then Bill brought in the least. But if you base this and said, well, Chrissy brought the most money in, so I'm going to give her the award this month, a bonus or something, then that would be almost incorrect, because they found what they were doing in this report was they said, yes, so-and-so, sales rep A brought in the most money. But when they looked at the orders that that person had, they had several really large pieces, and they put a 1-inch mat on it with an inexpensive frame, and it came up to be more money than the person who had a couple of small pieces, had triple mats along with a fillet, but it came in a couple $100 less than the person who had the large piece that was inexpensively framed and maybe not the best design. So the column that you want to look at, not necessarily just this total sales one, is the one over on the right. So, and that's the last column, not who had the larger pieces and who had the smaller pieces, but based on the per order, how much money per United Inch did this person bring in? And this is where you can see that, and okay, I gave it to me here, yeah. So that I brought in the most, and then Carl brought in, and then Chrissy did. So you may have the person who's at the front counter the most and doing an awful lot of the work, but you may want to help them to see other designs. Maybe they're in a design slump, or maybe they had the person who just didn't want to do anything more than just the basic. And Bill is the person who got all the repairs this week, so that's why his number is down. But each person can look at their number individually to say, I want to bring my number up, or I want to work towards being above the shop average and increase it. The other thing that's interesting about this report is the person who gives out the most discounts. And usually you'll find that the person who gives out the most discounts is the person who owns the store. And a lot of times people want to come in and ask for that person because they do give out the most discounts. So be careful, be cautious about that. You don't want to be the person that everybody's asking for because you give them a discount. So let's move on to the next section of this report. And I'm going to click the continue button and move on to the report based on the designer. Now, if you don't work with interior decorators or designers, that's fine. You don't have to use that portion of the report for that. But if you do, what it would do is show you the designer, the percentage, the dollars discounted that you're discounting for them. And you want to see, is that person bringing in a higher number than your shop average, or are they bringing in a lower number than your shop average? So are they worth the discount that you're giving them? So that's why you want to look at the report and add their name in. And I'll show you in just a moment where the designer field is, because the other thing that you can do with this designer field is track promotions and sales. So we ran a 10% off sale in June, so to speak, and said, let's track this. So we tracked it and found out that we had 2 orders that came in with 4 pieces, and it didn't bring in anything more than the people who weren't. So you might say, maybe it wasn't really worth it. But then again, you look at the average dollars discounted. So did it cost me more than $36 to run the sale? And, oh, sorry, total dollars discounted, $73. So did it cost me more than $73 to run the sale? And if it did, then maybe it wasn't worth it. But if it didn't, then that's great. The other benefit that comes out of this report shows me on the right-hand side that during this sale, these people were doing a better cost per united inch when they brought the piece in. So the people that were attracted in, are they new customers? Are they existing customers? Who were these people that came in during the promo sale? And I can go back and find their orders and say, yeah, let's go check them out and see if they are new or if they're existing customers, and what it was that we did on this sale that brought in more money per united inch than we had before. So you can track this, and if you use the same promo code, and you know that you would give it 10% off in June, and you also do it in November as well, or October for pre-Christmas sales to encourage people to order ahead of time, then you can track it using the same code and say, let me find everything that we've done with that, or let me just find the orders from June, or just the orders from October, or you can change that heading to be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to go back to the report in FrameReady. We're going to click continue and say I'm going to cancel that, so we're not going to print it out. The PDF, if you did want to save that as a PDF, and I'll just go back in there to show you where the PDF is. At the top of each of these screens, when you get to the printout, there we go, is a button that says PDF. So that if you wanted to save this as a PDF like I did, then you can give it a heading, call it what you want, and then click save it to your desktop or someplace. If you happen to have a Mac, it also has the ability to create a PDF from anything based on your printer. So now I want to show you where you can go in the program to set up using that designer field. In the work order screen, on the right-hand side, it says designed by. And I know some people, what they do is that they'll put their own names back in here that you have under the order taken by, because maybe somebody does the designing in the shop, and then another person fills it in later. And that isn't the intention of the field. You can use it with however you want, but the intention is that if I had a designer that was coming in, I want to track and see how much money they're bringing into my shop and how much am I discounting. Down here, I've got my promo codes to say, or I have a fall promo that I'm running, or anything that you're running. It could be a fall sale. You can call it whatever you want. And you can use the edit down at the bottom of the screen again to change these numbers. If you want to say sale instead of promo, then you can do that as well. Sale 15%. I would caution against using percentage signs or the little asterisk or any of those sort of things in your promo codes when we're tracking them. Okay, so that is where you can use the design by field. So Chrissy, I don't know if we have any questions. That's basically the information on the work order report. And we do have some polls that we can be running as well. So
yeah, we don't actually have any questions at this time, but we can go to the poll.
Yep, let's go to the polls. So during the webinar, there's always a question and answer time, so that if there are any questions, this is my chance to be able to answer. But we do want feedback from you as well on the webinars that we are running. So this is your chance to give us feedback on them and let us know. No, that's fine. Yeah, and the nice thing is that once you voted, everybody gets to see the results, and that's nice. Okay, great. Yeah, and thank you for that, because I find that we can get a lot more covered in the 60 minutes, 45 minutes. With, you know, if it is a smaller one that isn't such a large topic, then I'll reduce the amount of time. And you're right, 15 minutes you can't cover very much. And I want to be able to go slow
No.
enough to give all the information and give it in a concise and easy to understand manner. Thank you, Chrissy. And I realize now I didn't even give us an opportunity to introduce ourselves. We'll do that another time. I'm going to go back to the main menu. The next report that I want to take a look at is the glass usage report. And again, with all the reports, there's a little bit of setup that you may want to do ahead of time. If you go into the work order screen, the glass usage, up at the top of the screen, when you click Perform, you'll see there are some setup options. And this takes you back to the work order options that were there on the main menu. But the one that I'm looking for is the default glass sizes. And you'll notice on the work order screen that whenever you have a work order entered in and it's giving you the inside frame dimensions and the outside frame dimensions, there's a number in green over here on the left-hand side, and that is the suggested glass size that would best suit this piece. And it's just a little bit of information on the screen. But that number is coming from the Perform Setup Options default glass sizes. And when you click on that, it gives you a chart that you can fill in, you can edit, you can customize it. The rule about this chart, though, is that if you decide that you don't want the 16 by 20 in there, you'll need to delete it entirely, okay, and then move all the numbers up, because we don't want a blank space in there. And the other rule is that you can't just go down to the bottom and add it in down here. These numbers need to be in sequence so that when it's looking at the sizes, if 16 is not here and it's at the bottom of the list, it won't find it because it'll go up to the 18 next. So the numbers must remain in sequence, that going increasing on the left-hand side. It wouldn't matter so much on the right. They can go up and down there, but on the left-hand side, they have to increase slowly so that the number below it is higher than the number that's above it. You can put all different sizes in here, and I know you may say that I really don't use an 8 by 10, but you may want to track that information to find out. Even if the smallest glass size that you order right now is a 16 by 20, you may want these other sizes on there in case there is the option to order for those sizes. This is going to give you that information. So I'm going to move along then to the Done button. And now we're going to go back to the two ways that you can get to this report. If you go up to the top of the screen and you click on Reports, you'll see that there is the glass usage report right on here. And if you click on that, that's going to give you the report based on a date range. So you can say anything from this period to that period, and it's going to omit all of the estimates. The other option that you have, and it really doesn't tell you how many records there are going to be in that. So I tend not to use that one as much because I do know that it's going to take a little time to do this report. So I'm going to take a look at the list right now because I have 10 records in my list, and these are all the ones that were created from June that I want to run the report on. And when I click on one of them on the left-hand side of the screen under Print Documents, when I click on that button, I'm going to go down to the bottom and it says Reports for the Found Set. And that's great because now my found set is 10, 1 of 10, and that's what I'm going to run the report on. Be careful if it said that this was 1 of 795, you've got all of your records in here, or you've got 2,000 or 3,000 records in there. It's going to take quite a long time to run that report. So it's nice to get that listing to know how many records are going to be shown. You can get that list again from the work order screen down in the bottom right-hand corner. The information is there, how many records there are in the list, 1 of 10, or you can get it from the list view. It tells you right at the top in the center, so that if you did want to run the report and take a look at the numbers ahead of time before you click on that button, that's where the information is. So I'm going to go back to Reports. I'm going to click on Glazing Usage. And this is going to run a report based on those 10 records and give me the information. Now, I did the report up with a full year, I think it was. And so I'm going to go take a look at that instead. We'll cancel out of that, click Done. And I just want to move this aside a little bit to get to my glazing usage report. So this is showing me the different types of glass, and because of the report, so it'll take the entry that you have entered into the work order, and that's usually just the word conservation clear, and that's all that's added in there from the selection in the drop-down list for glass. But based on that chart, it knows whether it was a 11 by 14, a 22 by 28, and it's found those numbers and it's giving me the information. When you're looking at this report, I'm going to go down to the museum glass, because if you're able to buy museum glass now in a 16 by 20, and you take a look over here at the total usage, and you realize that I've actually been, for this last month, if I had maybe the number of 25 on there, then maybe it's worth buying a box of that size. So this will give you the ability to analyze. Now, if you look at your museum glass and you realize that the only size I can order is a 32 by 40, then all of these numbers basically are added up and into the 32 by 40. But if there's these two sizes as well that are coming out of the 16 by 20, I would add those in and say, yes, that my total really for the 16 by 20 is 11. And you can print out this report and do your own little tallies based on the sizes that are available for each of the different glass types that you can order from your supplier. So that's the benefit of using the glazing usage report. Being able to analyze to find out what are the sizes that I should be ordering in bulk, and what are the sizes that I am carrying right now. Because if you can buy in bulk on one of these other sizes and eliminate some of the waste that you have, that would be a benefit to you. I'm going to minimize that, and we're going to come back into FrameReady again. And are there any questions about the glazing usage report? If you did have acrylics on there, it's going to put them on as well. And also in the glazing, it's based on all of your entries in the drop-down list. If some of you have the size added onto this, you'll see the size printed twice on your report. And that's why you might see it twice on there. And if you're thinking it's a mistake, it's just because you already had it in the drop-down list for the size. And people do that sometimes if they wanted to price out the entire piece. It's a flat rate amount. So Chrissy, were there any questions there?
Yeah, we have some questions coming in. The first question is, can we get a PDF of this report, please?
Okay, I will get a PDF of this report and attach it either to the email if I can that goes out after, because after the webinar, there's an email that goes out to everyone who attended or who signed up to attend it, but wasn't able to. And you're going to be getting the video of this session, and you'll also get any handouts or information that I add into it. So I will try and create and I think that's a great idea. I'll try and create one and put it in there as well. Yep. Next question, Chrissy.
Yeah, so how does that work if you're using a code table with default sizes?
It works just the same way. It's based on the sizes that were used. So the report isn't telling you anything about your prices. You may be pricing and charging the same amount for a 24 by 30 as you do for a 30 by 40 because that light size isn't available to you. And it's not going to show what the price is on it, but it will show you that that size is available. And therefore, you would just take that number and add it into the total for your 32 by 40. So the report doesn't have anything to do with the prices, it just has to do with the usage.
Okay, I think that may have answered the next questions.
Okay.
Does the use report use the default sizes entered?
Yes, it uses the default sizes from the glazing, the glass setup that I showed you earlier. It does not use the sizes that you have on your code tables. So it's using the size. So if you want those sizes to be on the report, then make sure you go up to Perform and to Setup Options, and then over to the glass sizes to enter those in.
Okay, the glass we order is 40 by 68. We cut everything from that. How can we make it work with so many sizes?
Unfortunately, and that's one of the things I was thinking about when we were doing this, unfortunately, you would just have to total up all the numbers that are on that and say for that particular type of glass, this is it. And I'm thinking one of if we can do it, one of the modifications I'd like to see to that report is that we add in a subtotal, you know, for all the museum, and here's the total for the people that are only able to get one size or only use one size. So I think that would be a good modification to that report.
So
Okay.
I'm just sharing the results for the quick poll.
Oh, thank you, Chrissy. Great. Yeah. So quarterly, twice a year, annually. And I find annually is very common. Most people do annually. My recommendation would be that you at least do it annually unless you can do it twice a year, then twice a year would be great. But I'm not surprised to see that a majority of people feel that it's not often enough. So thank you for sharing that information, and helps people to say, you know what, you're not alone. Okay, so going back into the work order screen, going up to perform, and then going to setup options and going over to default glass sizes. And that's where you're going to put it in there. So if there are sizes you don't want, take them out, move all the numbers up. Okay, if you do have just that 40 by 48 in there, unfortunately, as I said, just total up all the sizes on the other report. And once you've got that total, because you don't want to leave those in there for the other glass. And that's the difficulty. So museum glass comes in certain sizes, conservation comes in different sizes, premium clear comes in all the sizes. So you want to leave all the sizes in there. Okay, so the next report that we want to take a look at is the report of the molding and Matboard usage. If we go to the main menu again, you're going to see that there are two reports here. This is the one for the molding and Matboard usage. This is the one based on supplier. And I specifically selected this one because if I do a pricing consultation with people, these are the three reports that I look at to analyze what's going on in your business and where we want to focus our attention. So this report, when we click on the molding and Matboard usage report, again, it gives you the date range, so you can enter in a starting date. And if you wanted to do, let's say February the 2nd, 2020 up to, and you're going to do 3 dots, April 1st, 2020, and that would allow you to do a specific date range. And the example is up at the top showing you how to do the numbers. If you decided that you just wanted to do a full year, you could do that as well and just type in the number that you want for the year. Again, that same report is up at the top of the screen here. And if we went to molding and Matboard usage, it's available there. And again, with that date range. So I ran this report for everything for January so far so that we could take a look at it. And when we take a look at it, let's go over here. There are a couple of things that I want you to look at in your report. When you get to the report, you're going to see that there's going to be a total here for all of the extenders, and extenders are stretcher bars. So stretcher bars, strainer stock, anything that doesn't increase the size of the frame outward, it increases the size, it builds the frame depth-wise, not outward. So it extends the depth. So this is the extender, and it says total, we've sold 79 feet of this. And then it's going to give you the details of which are the items that you use the most and the footage for each one of those, so that if you do have something that's coming up with a high number, this is something that you want to buy in stock. If you can order as length and cut it yourself, then you want to go ahead with that item and do that because it's going to be a benefit to you. The other thing that you may want to look at going down here, and this one shows fillets, and the fillet says that we're 181 feet of fillets sold, and it was just one fillet. So one of the things that somebody told me once that they did, and I just want to pass that on to you, is that on the work order, they bought a box of these fillets and said, got a great deal on it, and said, yep, we're going to offer fillets at half price. Or one person said they sold them, actually, they gave them away free, but even if you did it at half price, then what happened was during the fillet sale, people became accustomed to having a fillet in there. And the next time that they wanted to have something framed, they wanted the fillet added in, but now the sale was over, so now they're paying for the fillets. So it enhanced the design as well. And they found that the average United Inch price on the, price per United Inch went up, because you can't put an inexpensive looking mat in with a fillet, and people would go for double mats then. They were going for a nicer, higher quality look. And with you got the fillet free, then you went for a nicer frame. So all of that increased their sales. And the way to do that on the work order is that if you did want to put a fillet in here, let's go to an order that actually has a mat board on it. That will help, especially if I'm going to add in a fillet. So if you're adding in a fillet, then you decided that you just wanted to give a discount just on the fillet, then what you can do is give a discount specifically just on that one item. So this is the fillet that I have. It's going into here. And I'm sorry, I need to move my frame over a little bit. But you can give a discount on just an individual item rather than on the total piece. And I know on the work order screen, if I've got the fillet in here, the discount field, and they've already got it, is down here at the bottom. There we go, right there. So if I did want to add in a discount, I can put one in specifically just on that one fillet. So, or if it was a 50% off sale. But as I said, people tend to get addicted to them and then they want them in on the next order. But I digress. Let's go back to the report. In the report, the next thing we're going to look at is mat boards. So all of the frames are going to be listed here. You're going to find your top selling frame, whatever the wood frame is. And let's go down to the bottom here for metal frames, wood frames, whatever is your top frame. Again, you can buy it in bulk and get a better rate on it, then that's going to increase your profit. But going back up here to mat board, this is another section that I want to take a look at. When we're looking at the total number of mat boards sold during this short time period, your numbers are going to be much higher, but you're going to have a go-to mat. And everybody usually has a go-to white mat, a go-to black mat. And if you can buy that in bulk because you're using it often enough, then you're going to get a better rate. You're going to make more profit. So you want to do that. The place where you're losing your money, possibly, is down here at the bottom. So you can see there's a number of different mats that were ordered in specifically for a framed piece, but we only used a quarter of a sheet of that mat board. That means that there's 3/4 of the sheet of that mat board sitting in stock, and we're hoping that we covered the cost on this before we sold it, so that we aren't losing money. If you have your pricing set up so that you're saying, well, you know what, I'll get the rest of my money back when I sell the rest of the piece, your list might be very, very long on here. And that means that every time you see something in there that says 25, a quarter of sheet, that's something that you've lost money on if you haven't set your pricing up to cover that. So I want to show you how you're going to make sure that you cover the pricing on those pieces that you've sold just a small amount. And it's so easy to do. We did cover this on a different session, but I want to go back and show it to you on this one as well. In the price codes file, when we click on the red corner sample with the blue $sign, we're going to go to mat board on the left-hand side. And looking at one record in the mat boards, we're going to go over to the right, click on the dark blue tab for mat board pricing. And the thing you want to look at is the minimum price. You should have a minimum price in here. If you don't, then what's going to happen is all those pieces that you sold a quarter of a sheet, and this one is, let's go to a more realistic mat board. Let's go find that one. So there we go. So here's our mat board that we're looking at. We're clicking on the dark blue tab for mat board pricing. We're going to click on the minimum price here. All right, and this one just says cost right now, but I'm going to take that out, and I'm also going to take out the code table. All right, so that we can see over on the right hand side, if we were to sell something that was an 8 by 10, 9 by 12, 11 by 14, all of these smaller items are below the cost of the mat for the 8 by 10, which means that if it was a small piece, you are not going to be making enough money on it. So you want to make sure that you have something under the minimum price. And if you type in the word cost, then that means that at least it's going to be the cost of the mat. Okay, but knowing that you still have to order the mat in, you still have to cut the mat, you still have to do all the labor that's involved in that, you might want to make something at least out of that small piece that went out the door. And then the hope is before that mat gets too damaged and faded and dented, and if it's a really unusual color that nobody else is going to want, you want to make sure that you cover your costs on that. So once you've added that in here, it covers the cost on this one mat. If you want to learn how to apply it to all of them, make sure that you go to the pricing options and defaults, okay? because that's where it needs to be. Under the min price, the cost +5 or +2 or +1, even if you want to start out, make sure that this is your default one and apply this pricing to all of the Matboard in your database, especially if you're finding that you've got lots of mats that you've used just a quarter of a sheet, a quarter of a sheet, and a quarter of a sheet. So we did do one on Matboard pricing. If you want to go back and watch that video, it's in detail all those things that you should be doing to make sure your pricing is covered for your mats. The other report that was on there, and I didn't say that we were going to look at it, but we could do that, is the molding usage by supplier report. And if we go back to the work order screen here, and I do have my 10 records on there, so I'm going to go back to print documents, and over here click on the molding usage by supplier. And what this report does, it's a little bit different than the other report that I looked at, is that it's going to break it down by supplier. We'll do it without page breaks. We'll group them all together. Okay, and again, sorry, I don't have the ability to enlarge this for you, but it's going to give you each of the suppliers that you work with and that you've ordered from. It will list all the different frames that you have and that you've used, tell you the number of the times that it was used, how much the footage was used, what the cost was that it sold for, sorry, the cost that you paid for it, the retail price that it sold for, and then it's also going to give you a profit column to let you know how much profit you were making from each one of those. So it's a different way of looking at the same information. It does tell you which of the suppliers you're using the most, which ones are you're making the most profit off of, and it could be the way your pricing is set up. It's going to tell you, maybe I should be making more profit off of this one as well, and you want to increase the prices or the markups just on that one supplier, and you can do that. Super. So that's the molding usage report sorted by supplier, and that is also available on the main work order screen, the main menu, and again under the reports up here. So 3 different ways for you to get to those reports, either at the top of the screen on the work order, under reports, or using the print documents button over on the left-hand side of the screen, or on the main menu right in the work order section. Those reports are listed there. Now the glazing report isn't here, but it is on the work order screen. Okay, Chrissy, are there any questions about that information?
Yes, so we have a couple questions.
Okay.
Eric would like to know, how do we add in footage for crossbars so this report accounts for that and so that we don't over or undercharge the customer?
Okay, so if we're we think we did do one on stretchers and strainers, but that's a great question, and the question is down here under the other, so that if there is a strainer that's going in here, I would click on other, and this is a crossbar that I'm using, add item, select from your database. This is going to be in my extenders, and I'm just going to go do a search and find any of the strainers that I'm using and I want to use as a crossbar, and I'll enter that in. But I'm going to say that if the piece that I'm framing is perhaps 36 inches long and 20 inches high, and I want to put something in that for that height of the 20, then I just need 20 inches that's going in there, and I'm going to price just for that 20 inches. If I'm putting more than one of them in there, maybe I'm going to be two supports in there, so I'll change the quantity to 2, okay, for those 2 supports, and then I'm going to click done. It's because I've used this number here, it's going to be pulling that information out and adding it to that report. So that's in the other, and this is the crossbar or the support that I've added in just for the height of the piece, or if it's going crossways, whichever way you're adding it in. You're just going to put the one piece of information in, and that's the height that you need. And this one was 20 by 20, but if it was 20 by 36, we'll say 36. There we go. That's what I would do. Okay, next question, Chrissy.
Someone was asking if they need to be in level 4 for the reports.
No, I don't believe you do need to be in level 4. You can be in level 3 to run the reports. I believe in level 2, you will not be able to see those reports. So level 3 though, the reports are still available. And if we go back to here and you click on print documents, yes, all those reports are available. Okay, but when you go back into level 1, no, you cannot. If you go into level 2, I believe they should be available to you. Nope, they're not. Okay. Yeah, so level 3 and level 4 are the ones that you can get the reports.
Okay, so next question, on molding cost column, can we make cost include shipping cost?
Molding cost column includes shipping costs. Probably not, no, because it's pulling the information based on this cost field over here. So unless you've added that into the cost field on this left-hand side, it's not going to include the cost of shipping, unfortunately. Okay. And sorry for the
Will we be, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
Will we be able to get a recorded copy of this webinar? And we also had people questioning about previous webinar copies.
Right. So all of the webinars that we have done so far are listed on our YouTube channel, so you can go there. The exception, though, are any of the webinars that have to do talking about markups. So I don't want those publicly on the site. We do have the ability to send those to you. They are on there, but they are not listed, which means that the public cannot find them. If you do want a copy of any of the other webinars, I do have an email that we can send out, and Chrissy can send that out to you, and we'll find a way to get that to you. Maybe we'll put it in a newsletter or something so that you can access that. So all of the webinars, this webinar will be on the YouTube channel. It's just the pricing ones that are there. They are not listed though, so we'll find a different way. If you do sign up for a webinar and you're thinking, I want this information, even if you don't attend, you will receive a copy of this webinar after the webinar. When it's finished, you'll receive a copy of it, maybe a couple of hours, 6 hours later. Okay.
Next question. Can we use the set price space to add the cost for shipping?
Yes, you can. One of the things that I've worked with a couple of people to do is under the frames, if you decide that you want to enter that in under, let's go to set price. So this is the area where you can do it. If you wanted to add in, and this is the section that I've used to add in shipping specifically just for a supplier. So that's one way to do it if you wanted to add a set price per company. You could do that. Or if you have in your defaults one for a specific supplier, then you would just add that in under the set price for that supplier. Another option that we have is there's something called a ship code, because I know companies like Roma have a ship code based on what the United Inch size is. So you can create a code table and then add that code table into here. And I don't think I have any for shipping in here. No. Okay. But if you did, it would be set up based on the United Inch. And then you can link that code table to here, and that would apply it specifically for the United Inch sizes with a different dollar amount per United Inch. Looks like that might be another webinar that we should do.
Okay, I have one more question. Some types of glass have different sizes than other types. How does that work with setting sizes for the report?
Good question. The answer is that you have to put all of the sizes in there, so that if you want to get the report for any of the sizes, all of the sizes have to be listed in there. And I know that you may not be able to get conservation clear or museum glass in 11x14, but you can get premium glass in that. So you want to leave it on the list if that's a size that you want to track. So at this point in time, unfortunately, all sizes need to be on there that you want to track, even though some glass some varieties of glass can't be sold in that size. Okay.
And that's it for our question.